I will be talking about making JavaScript behave in Drupal. So it's not like it's a small school boy who's not behaving. Nothing about that. It's something which is inbuilt in Drupal's core, and we have come a long way now. Drupal 10 is already out, as you might have seen, and but still, we need to understand that this is a very important topic. Uh, I have seen a lot of code in Drupal where we are using Drupal behaviors, but we don't know why we are using them. So let's try to unwind that mystery and uh, let's try to use Drupal behaviors correctly. So start off. So these are the topics that I would be covering. Drupal behaviors and attach object which is there in Drupal behaviors. Then there's the context, which is very important when we are working with Drupal behaviors. There is once, which is a very good library, which saves us a lot. It was once used in conjunction with jQuery, but we won't be talking about jQuery. We will be using the new modern implementation of once. Then there's the detach method. Again, it's an object, not a method. Detach object, which is like in reverse of attach, but it is not used a lot, but it is used for some important cleanup functionalities. So yeah, we will dwell into it briefly. And the last one is IIFE. So I guess a lot of you might know what IIFE is, but it's something important. And once we are writing our JS in Drupal, it becomes necessary that we use IIFE. Why? We will see. So let's start off. So what exactly is Drupal behaviors? So Drupal behaviors is an object. Please see the spelling. It's not OUR, it's OR. It's the US convention, so be aware about it. Drupal behaviors is an object inside the JavaScript structure in Drupal, which allows us to attach functions to be executed at certain times during the execution of the application. So basically, whatever JavaScript we write, when do we want to execute it and what needs to be executed, Drupal behavior controls that. Drupal behaviors is called when the DOM is fully loaded, but these behaviors can be called again. Again, it's not just once. We can call it again and again. Drupal's official JavaScript documentation suggests that modules should implement JavaScript by attaching logic to Drupal behaviors. So this is just not limited to Drupal themers or the front-end people. This is applicable to everyone who is working on Drupal. So let's move on. Okay, so why do we need Drupal behaviors? What's the use of it? The advantage of behaviors is that they are automatically reapplied to any content that is loaded through AJAX or which is dynamic content which comes in the DOM. And they can be called anytime with a context that represents new additions or changes to the DOM. Again, whatever is necessary and where the functionality is needed, Drupal behavior will only touch that functionality. And this is better than document.ready, which was earlier in jQuery, or document.dom content loaded, which is like the modern JavaScript implementation, where the code is just run once. So if we want that our functionality is attached to something which is coming in dynamically or which is coming through an AJAX call, then yeah, this is where we want Drupal behavior to come in. So when is Drupal behaviors unwanted? Like, it's not always a good thing to have Drupal behaviors. There are certain cases where we don't want Drupal behaviors. So one thing is when we need to execute some code which does not affect the DOM. Like there are some third-party scripts which we need to initialize only once when the page is loaded. Something like Google Analytics or some scripts related to cookies. Those things don't exactly need Drupal behaviors. They can be executed outside of Drupal behaviors. And again, when some JS operation needs to be performed on the DOM just once, knowing that the element will be available when the page loads. So when we are 100% sure that certain functionality needs to be attached just once when the page loads to a certain element, then we don't really need Drupal behaviors. We can use JavaScript outside Drupal behaviors. And this scenario is different from using once. Like we can write once also for like using Drupal behaviors for this kind of operation, but that would be an extra amount of code. So it's better if we write that kind of code outside Drupal behaviors. So when is Drupal behaviors called? Like we write our code in Drupal behaviors, but when is it called? When are each of the attach object called? What are the events? So first is when the administration overlay has been loaded into the page. So basically when you are logged in as an admin or some sort of a user who has an admin view, you can see the admin overlay on top. At that time, Drupal behavior is called. The other scenario is when AJAX form API has been submitted. So when you are submitting a form where AJAX is involved, so in that case, again, Drupal behavior is called. And the third case is when an AJAX request returns a command that modifies the HTML, such as an AJAX command replace. So these are like the frequent scenarios where Drupal behavior is called. Other scenarios are listed down over here. These are like some of the frequently used modules which call Drupal behaviors. So C tools, chaos tools calls it after a model has been loaded. So that is again an important point to note. Media calls it after the media browser has been loaded. Panels calls it after in-place editing has been completed. Views, which are something which we use a lot, calls it after a loading new page that uses AJAX. So this is something that we will be looking into as an example. Load more calls after loading the next chunk of items. Again, this is something we will be seeing. And of course, when custom modules, they want to, have their implementation of Drupal.attach behaviors, they can call Drupal behaviors when they add or change any part of the page. So how do we use Drupal behavior? So this was like a brief intro regarding Drupal behaviors, but how exactly we use it? So for that, we need the attach method, attach object. So this Drupal behavior, there is an attach object where we need to specify our JS code. So to demonstrate that, I'll just show you a slide where it is called. So this is our JS file where we have a snippet of a code. So we will write Drupal, which is an object which Drupal provides us in JavaScript. And behaviors is a part of that Drupal object. And there we add our what do you say, the behavior name. So this is what is being called by Drupal when we are when it is calling all the behaviors. That is this attach function over here. So this is the Drupal attachment, and this is the attach function which is being called. So in that function, we get two parameters, the context and the settings. How are they used and what comes inside that? That is something we'll see. So anytime Drupal.attach behaviors is called, it will iterate through all behavior objects and call the respective attach methods. So if you see over here, attach is a method which is being called. And basically what Drupal does is it traverses through all the behavior names and calls their attach object, attach method. So to show you in the code itself, so this is the core folder in our Drupal installation. And in that, if you go to Drupal.js file, this is the ESX.js file, there you will see attach behaviors. And over here, as you can see, these behaviors is being called over here, and it is being looped, like whatever the behaviors that we are declaring, we are looping through each of those behaviors, and whatever the function is attached to that, we are like executing that function. So that's how Drupal attach behavior works, and this is like the implementation in Drupal core. Before going to the context, let's see something in action. So I have prepared a demo where we will see like what happens if we are not using Drupal behavior. So to do that, I'm just put 0 over here. So what I'm doing right now is we have this view where we are showing each of the food items over here. There's a title for that, an image, and some description regarding those food items. And we are just showing 2 of those in this page. And the functionality that I have given over here is like, if I click over here, it shows me how many times I have clicked in this food area. So if I go over here and if I click over here, it shows me how many times I have clicked in this area. So if I click over here, load more, it loads other food items. But if I start clicking over here, I don't see this getting incremented like it was getting incremented over here. So what's the issue? Why we are not getting this increment over here? So let's go to the code. So basically what we are doing is we are not using Drupal behaviors. We are directly adding the event listener to each of the food items. So view 0 is the food item where we are attaching a click event listener. And when we are clicking on it, we are just incrementing the number of times we are clicking on the food item. So, but it is just applicable to all the food items which were initially there on the page, and not to the food items which were loaded after the AJAX call. So this means that it is necessary that we use Drupal behaviors. So to do that, what we'll do is we will have some codes, something like this, where we are adding all that code that was written over here, all this code, and we are adding it inside a Drupal behavior. And we are adding the behavior name, a unique behavior name. And in that we have this attach function where we have added our JS code, which was doing that functionality. So let's have this functionality now. So I have just modified and included the new JS file, which has the Drupal behavior code. And let's see what happens. So I'll refresh this. And I click this. This is the code item, which is already there. And I click on load more. So you see, now we have items coming in over here. So this way, whatever the new items which are being loaded, we are able to attach behaviors to them, and the functionality is available to them also. So this is fine, but we see that this is something absurd. When we are reloading the page, we have it just once. But when we are adding load more, we are getting this twice. So what's the issue over here? So let's go to the code once just to see what's happening. So what we are doing over there is we are just selecting this header area and attaching a span to it over here, and just saying that get ready for good food text is attached to this header area. But what we are doing is we are searching this header item inside the document. And this is where the issue arrives. What's the issue? We will see it right now. So basically, the context parameter that we saw, which was there over here, is something which is very useful in determining where the new functionality should be added when the behavior is being called. So when calling the attach method for all the behaviors, Drupal passes along a context variable. The context variable that is passed can often give a better idea of what DOM element is being processed. So basically, the context variable is something which contains what is the area of the page that is being processed. And during the initial page load, this will be the complete HTML document. And after that, during the subsequent calls, this will be just the elements that are being added to the page, or whatever whatever being modified or deleted, whatever is the case. Context would only be that part of the page. So only in the initial load, we will have the complete HTML document in the context. So now if I go to the code, over here, we are going through the document and searching for food list header. But what is happening? When we refresh the page, it is attached the first time. But when we are doing load more, what happens is this content gets added. But because Drupal behavior is being called again, so what happens is this piece of code, it is run over here. So what happens? We are getting an extra piece of span over here, which we should not get. So for having this sorted out, we will have to use this context parameter which is coming in, and that can be done like this. So context is something that we are using. So instead of using the document that we were using over here, we are using the context over here, context parameter, which will just contain the part of the page which is being modified by Drupal behavior. So initially, the context is the whole document. So this is, it catches the header part and attaches the span to it. But subsequently, when we are clicking on this load more, it will, the context will just be this element over here and the elements which are newly loaded. And then the context would be that only. So this part would not find the food list header inside that context, and hence we will not get a span over here. So let's see that in action. So yeah, this is just once the span which has been attached over here on top. And if I click on load more over here, so as you see, we are not getting any extra spans over here added. But there is something which is amiss over here, and that is not clear at first point. So when we click over here, this is working fine. This is also working fine. But when we click over here, why is it taking 2 clicks? This should be taking only 1 click, as we are just clicking on it once, but it is taking 2 clicks, right? So what's the issue over here? So if we go back to the code and see, we had used the context over here, and we had used the context over here too, where we are querying, like where's the views row? That is this part. I'll just show you over here. So if you can see, we have this views row over here, and these are the extra views row which are being added. But when we are clicking over here, it is clicking twice, which means the event has been attached again to this view row right now. So we are using context, but we are not getting the desired behavior. So the conclusion over here is the add event listener is getting attached twice to whatever elements are which are already present inside this view. So if I click it again over here, load more, now we'll see it will grow more rapidly. So it is now 3 times the event listener has been attached to this view row, and we are seeing that the 1 click produces 3 increments over here. So how do we solve this? So this is where comes in once. So that was the misbehavior. So when Drupal behavior starts misbehaving, so this is where the Drupal behavior starts misbehaving. So these are the cases, writing the event listeners inside Drupal behavior without using once and context. So this is what we saw right now, that the Drupal behavior started misbehaving and declaring unwanted functions inside Drupal behavior. So basically, if we are writing any functions inside Drupal behavior, like that's something that we don't want to do. We should write any extra functions over here, which does not want to be, written inside Drupal behavior, so that it is just initialized once, and it can be Drupal behavior, or however times it calls, it can call that function, something like this. And we can use that inside however times we use. So this is just an example where we don't want to use it inside the behavior. We can write whatever our usable functions outside Drupal behaviors. So how do we prevent Drupal behaviors from misbehaving? So we have once to the rescue. So what is once? So once is again a JS library, which was initially called jQuery once, as it had to be used with jQuery, but now we have Drupal once, which we are using in our code. So if you see over here in our libraries.yaml file, we have this core once where we are getting the Drupal.once JS library. And this is useful for whatever Drupal misbehavior that is happening right now. So once ensures that something is processed only once by adding a data once attribute, the DOM element, after the code has been executed. If the behavior is called again, the element with the data once attribute is skipped for further execution. So basically, once we are attaching an event listener to any element with once, what happens is we get this data once attribute in that element, and subsequent Drupal behavior calls will not add that event listener to that element. So as I said, once is modern implementation of jQuery once, which is of course an endeavor for us to move away from jQuery in our whatever Drupal projects we would be building. So how does once look like? Basically, once as we declared in our libraries.yaml, it is available to us, and once takes in the data attribute that we wanted to set. So this is the value of the data once attribute that we will be setting. The element to which we want to set it. Let's say the name of the element is the class of the element is demo. So that's the element we set in. Context, like we said, is very important, or else if we don't use context, it will again go through the whole document, which is like a wastage of the cycles, CPU cycles. So it's better to specify the context. And then for that element, we will run our code inside this for each function. Basically, once provides us an array of elements. So even if demo is a single element in the DOM, .demo is a single element in the DOM, it will give us an array, and it will, for that element, we can do whatever operation that we want to do. So if there are more than one element, then for all of them, we can like use for each to loop through all of them and attach this functionality that we want to give to that element. So let's see the issue that we are facing. So right now we are facing this issue. So what we'll do is we will add once over here in our food event listener. So basically what we will do is for each of the food items, we are adding a data attribute called food initialized. And once that is added, however times we click, it will only take one click and not multiple clicks if we are clicking once on it. So to see this in action, I'll just replace this, the JS file. Example 3 is the one where we have this once. So let's refresh this. So as you can see, this is working fine. This is working fine. If I load more, this is also working fine. This is also working fine. If we go on the first one, this is working fine. It is incrementing by one only. So this is working as it is intended. And how is it happening? So if you see over here, food initialized is the value of the data attribute which has been added to this row. And so whenever we are adding new items by pressing on load more, it does not add the event listener to this row again. So this way we are ensuring that the elements which are already present on the page, they don't get the event listener attached to them again whenever the Drupal behavior is called. So this is the jQuery equivalent of it. So if you are working on any Drupal project which has jQuery, so we select it and we put in the context over here and we add the dot once over here. So here we have this food header initialized. So we'll add the food header. So if we have something which is equivalent of this, it would be something like this. And this would be views row. So I had put it for header, but it would be something like this for the example that we saw. So the views row would be over here. The context that we are passing would be inside this jQuery selector. After the jQuery selector, we'll add once to it. And after that, the name of the value of the data once attribute that we are specifying over here, that comes over here. And inside that, we get the individual element on which we want to run our code. So this is how we do that. Okay, moving on. This solves one of our problems, but we also have something called cleanup. Cleaning up is something that usually we are not bothered about, and it is something which comes in handy when something is running in the background and we are not aware about it. So what is the cleanup? For doing cleanup, we have something called as the detach method. We saw the attach method. We have the detach method over here. So what does the detach method do? So the detach method, this acts like an anti-hero, which is not evil. It is the reverse of attach method. It removes whatever we did in attach method. So any code in the detach method will be called whenever content is removed from the DOM. And this helps us to clean up our application. Example enables us to remove unwanted event listener, which consume resources. Or let's say there is some polling happening in the background. So to help us clean that up, we use this detach method. So let's see detach in action. So we have this contact us form over here, and we have this timer set over here. And just to highlight you, we are logging that timer over here also. So however times we are running the timer, we are just logging that. So what I'll do is this timer will stop once the form is submitted, and that's how the functionality should be. So I'm putting some values over here, and then so basically the timer is removed and our message is sent. Everything seems good over here. But when we go over here, just a second. This is the correct code. So I'll show you. So this looks all good, but when we see over here, we see that there is no cleanup done over here. So as the cleanup is not done over here, what happens is that code which was running the timer is still running it. And due to that, we are getting the error in our console. And this kind of errors in console is something which we should avoid. Like we should clean up whatever code which is doing some sort of polling so that the browser doesn't get overloaded. So what was there in the code which was doing this. So if we see over here, what we did was we just had this timer over here. So this is the contact timer, and this is the contact timer span where we are incrementing. So we are using once over here, and we are like incrementing it over here by using set interval. We are getting that contact timer what do you say, the span, and then we are setting it to whatever is the count which we are increasing over here. So by that, we are increasing the timer by 1 second. But when we are like submitting this, we are not using any of the cleaning code. Ideally, where should we write that? So that is where the detach method comes in. So if you see over here, this is the code which ran initially. So we didn't see error, but yeah, this is the code where we should write in our code that cleans up whatever time interval that we had set. So here we are using the set interval that we used previously, and that gives us an ID of that interval function which is being called after 1 second. And once the form is unloaded, what happens is we are seeing if the form is being unloaded, we will unset the timer over here by calling clear interval and passing this interval ID, which is the interval stopper variable over here to this. And that way we are able to stop the timer from executing even in the background, even though if it's not visible to us. So as we saw over here, let's use this over here in our for contact tweak. So as you see, now the logging has also stopped, and we don't see any error, which means that the interval set interval has been stopped. And this makes it, this really frees up the browser's resources, which is a good practice. So, okay, so that was the detach method. Now let's go to immediately invoke function expression. So basically we have been using IIFE to write our Drupal code. We don't directly write our Drupal code in the JS file without using IIFE. So this is what is IIFE. Basically a function that we are declaring inside this and calling it immediately. So this gets, this is something sort of an anonymous function. And inside that, we are setting out Drupal behaviors code and whatever function that we want to declare. So the initial opening parenthesis defines an anonymous function, which helps prevent the function scope from polluting the global scope of the entire application. So basically, whatever function name that we give over here, we want to ensure that it doesn't, collide with any of the global functions which are already present in the Drupal JS environment. So that way, when we are declaring this inside this IIFE, it makes it less vulnerable to be overwritten by. It means it is not vulnerable at all to be overwritten by any other function which has the same name. So like if we write over here, and if some function has the same name, what happens is there is a high chance that your function would be overwritten by that function. So that's why it's a good practice to write that function inside this, and also our Drupal behaviors inside this anonymous function. Okay, so you can pass arguments to your anonymous functions by including them as arguments at the end of the function definition. So basically, this is this Drupal parameter that we are passing in over here. This is an object which is there in the window object that is available in the browser. So we can pass in onto this IIFE by passing in the parameter over here, which is available over here to us, and then we can use it over here. So what's the use of this? Basically, there are some functions, there are some libraries which might use same name, or which for referring them, like jQuery, we use dollar. So dollar can be used for some in any other library also. So to avoid that conflict, we can pass in jQuery over here, and that jQuery can be used as a dollar parameter over here, which can be used to have jQuery inside this IIFE. So if there is something else that we want to use as dollar, let's say there is Lodash library, so we can mention the Lodash library over here and use dollar instead of jQuery. You can use Lodash library as a dollar inside our. So that's how IIFE is useful for us to have like this vulnerability removed and have various libraries. The usage of various libraries becomes simple. So yeah, that's it. Any questions?
Hi guys, thank you for watching. I had an amazing time learning all the new things here at Specbee's TECHX. And if you did too, do let us know in the comments below. Keep following Specbee for the latest trends in technology. See you in the next one.